Hi, my name is Elisa, and this is my story. I often wonder how I've made it this far. At 38, I've faced more than my fair share of hardships, but somehow, I'm still standing. My life has been a series of struggles, starting with getting pregnant at 18. Anthony, my high school sweetheart, and I got married and braced ourselves for the challenges ahead. By the time I was 22, I gave birth to our twins, Jack and Emma. Just a week later, my parents died in a car accident. It felt like the world was collapsing around me. I had these tiny lives depending on me, and I was drowning in grief. But I had no choice but to keep going for their sake. The years went by in a blur of dirty diapers, sleepless nights, and endless work. Then, at 30, I was diagnosed with a deadly illness. The doctors didn't give me much hope, and the medical bills started piling up. Our finances were already strained, and this nearly pushed us over the edge. But I refused to give up. I fought with everything I had, and by some miracle, I won the battle by the time I was 33. Despite surviving, life didn't get easier. My health struggles meant I had to change jobs often. I worked as a receptionist at a spa, in customer service, and anywhere that would take me. Our lifestyle was poor, and there were months we struggled to pay the bills. Sometimes, we couldn't even afford groceries. But through it all, Anthony stood by me. He took on extra shifts, and together, we made it work, somehow. There were days I felt like giving up, days when the weight of it all seemed too much to bear. But then I'd look at Jack and Emma, now teenagers with their whole lives ahead of them, and I'd remember why I kept fighting. They deserved a better life, and I was determined to give it to them, no matter what it took. Anthony and I have our moments. The stress has pushed us to the brink more times than I can count. But we've also found strength in each other. We've learned to laugh at the little things, to find joy in the moments of peace. Now, as I sit in our small kitchen, sipping a cup of tea, I realize how far we've come. Life hasn't been easy, and it never will be. But we're here. We're surviving. And sometimes, that's enough. I met Anthony when I was 16. It was the first day of junior year, and he was the new kid in school. He had this shy smile that instantly drew me in. We had chemistry class together, and one day, I found myself paired with him for a lab project. "Hi, I'm Anthony," he said, his voice a little uncertain as he extended his hand. "I'm Elisa," I replied, shaking his hand and feeling an unexpected jolt of excitement. We spent the next few weeks working on our project together, and in that time, we became inseparable. Anthony was kind, funny, and incredibly smart. He made me feel special in a way no one else ever had. By the time our project was finished, we were officially a couple. High school flew by in a whirlwind of football games, dances, and late-night study sessions. Anthony and I had big dreams. He wanted to be an engineer, and I dreamed of becoming a teacher. But life had other plans for us. The summer after graduation, I found out I was pregnant. The news hit us like a freight train. We were just kids ourselves, and suddenly, we were going to be parents. We decided to get married, much to the dismay of our families. They thought we were too young, that we were making a mistake. But we were determined to make it work. Our wedding was a small, simple affair. We stood under a gazebo in the local park, exchanging vows in front of a handful of friends and family. I wore a borrowed dress, and Anthony wore a suit that was a little too big for him. But in that moment, none of that mattered. We were young and in love, ready to face whatever the world threw at us. Looking back, those first few years of marriage were some of the hardest of my life. Anthony and I struggled to balance work, school, and preparing for the arrival of our baby. We moved into a tiny apartment, barely big enough for the two of us, let alone a baby. But we made it work. Anthony took on extra shifts at the grocery store, and I worked part-time at a diner. It wasn't glamorous, but it was enough to get by. When Jack and Emma were born, everything changed. They were perfect, tiny little bundles of joy that filled our hearts with more love than we ever thought possible. But they also brought new challenges. Sleepless nights, endless feedings, and the constant worry that we were doing something wrong. It was exhausting, but somehow, we managed. A week after the twins were born, tragedy struck. My parents were killed in a car accident. Losing them was like losing a part of myself. They had always been my rock, my support system, and suddenly, they were gone. I was devastated, but I couldn't afford to fall apart. Jack and Emma needed me. Anthony needed me. So I pushed through the grief, one day at a time. As the years went by, life settled into a routine. Anthony and I both worked multiple jobs to make ends meet, and we took turns caring for the kids. It wasn't easy, but we were happy. We had each other, and that was enough. Then, when I was 30, I received the worst news of my life. I had been feeling run down for months, but I chalked it up to the stress of work and raising 2 young children. When I finally went to the doctor, they ran some tests and discovered that I had a deadly illness. The prognosis was grim, and the medical bills quickly piled up. We were already struggling financially, and this nearly pushed us over the edge. But I refused to give up. I had too much to live for. I underwent treatment, enduring months of pain and uncertainty. There were times when I wanted to give up, when the weight of it all felt too much to bear. But Anthony was always there, holding my hand and reminding me why I needed to keep fighting. And by some miracle, I won the battle. By the time I was 33, I was in remission. Surviving the illness was a victory, but it came at a cost. My health struggles meant I had to change jobs often. I worked wherever I could, from being a receptionist at a spa to working in customer service. Our lifestyle was poor, and there were months when we struggled to pay the bills. Sometimes, we couldn't even afford groceries. But through it all, Anthony stood by me. He took on extra shifts, and together, we made it work. There were days when I felt like giving up, days when the weight of it all seemed too much to bear. But then I'd look at Jack and Emma, now teenagers with their whole lives ahead of them, and I'd remember why I kept fighting. They deserved a better life, and I was determined to give it to them, no matter what it took. Anthony and I have had our moments. The stress has pushed us to the brink more times than I can count. But we've also found strength in each other. We've learned to laugh at the little things, to find joy in the moments of peace. Now, as I sit in our small kitchen, sipping a cup of tea, I realize how far we've come. Life hasn't been easy, and it never will be. But we're here. We're surviving. And sometimes, that's enough. Raising Jack and Emma was both a joy and a challenge. From the moment they were born, they filled our lives with love and laughter. But they also brought a new level of chaos to our already hectic lives. Jack was the more adventurous of the two. Even as a baby, he was always on the move, exploring every corner of our tiny apartment. He had this infectious curiosity that I admired, even though it often got him into trouble. I remember one time when he was about 2 years old, I found him trying to climb out of his crib. He had managed to stack his toys in a makeshift ladder and was halfway over the side when I caught him. "Jack, what are you doing?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. "I want to see the stars, Mama," he replied, his big blue eyes filled with determination. I couldn't help but laugh. "You can't see the stars from inside, buddy. Let's go outside, and I'll show you." Emma, on the other hand, was more cautious. She preferred to stay close to me, watching her brother's antics with a mix of amusement and concern. She was a quiet, thoughtful child, always asking questions and wanting to understand the world around her. One evening, as I was tucking them into bed, Emma looked up at me with her serious brown eyes. "Mama, why do stars shine?" I smiled and sat down on the edge of her bed. "Stars are like big balls of fire, Emma. They're made of gas and they burn really, really hot. That's what makes them shine." She nodded, absorbing the information. "Will we ever get to go to the stars?" "Maybe someday," I said, brushing a strand of hair away from her face. "But for now, we can look at them from here and dream." Those early years were filled with moments like these. Moments of wonder and discovery, of laughter and tears. Anthony and I did our best to give Jack and Emma a happy childhood, despite the challenges we faced. We took them to the park, read them bedtime stories, and celebrated their milestones. But it wasn't always easy. There were times when the stress of work and financial struggles took its toll. Anthony and I would argue over money, over who would take the next shift, over whose turn it was to do the dishes. There were nights when I cried myself to sleep, feeling overwhelmed and exhausted. One night, after a particularly heated argument, I sat on the couch, my head in my hands. Anthony came and sat beside me, his arm around my shoulders. "I'm sorry, Elisa," he said softly. "I know this is hard. But we'll get through it. We always do." I looked up at him, tears streaming down my face. "I don't know how much more I can take, Anthony. I'm so tired." He pulled me into a hug, holding me tightly. "I know. But we're in this together. And no matter what, we'll keep fighting. For Jack and Emma. For us." His words gave me strength. We were a team, and together, we could face anything. When I was 30, I started feeling unusually tired. At first, I thought it was just the stress of work and raising 2 kids. But as the months went by, the fatigue got worse. I started losing weight, and I felt a constant ache in my bones. Anthony insisted I go to the doctor, and after a series of tests, I received the devastating news: I had a deadly illness. Hearing the diagnosis was like being hit by a truck. The doctor explained the treatment options, but the prognosis was grim. The medical bills quickly piled up, adding to our already strained finances. I felt like I was drowning, but I knew I had to keep fighting. I had too much to live for. The next few months were a blur of hospital visits, treatments, and endless worry. The treatments were brutal, leaving me weak and nauseous. There were days when I could barely get out of bed, but I pushed through it, determined to beat the illness. Anthony was my rock during this time. He took on extra shifts at work and took care of the kids, all while supporting me through the treatments. There were times when I felt like giving up, but he was always there, holding my hand and reminding me why I needed to keep fighting. One evening, after a particularly grueling treatment, I was lying in bed, feeling completely drained. Anthony sat beside me, holding my hand. "I'm scared, Anthony," I whispered, tears streaming down my face. "What if I don't make it?" He squeezed my hand, his eyes filled with determination. "You will make it, Elisa. You're the strongest person I know. And no matter what, I'll be here with you. We'll get through this together." His words gave me the strength I needed to keep fighting. And by some miracle, I won the battle. By the time I was 33, I was in remission. It was a victory, but it came at a cost. My health struggles meant I had to change jobs often, and our financial situation remained precarious. But we were alive. We had each other, and we had our children. And that was enough. Surviving the illness was a victory, but it left its mark on our lives. My health struggles meant I had to change jobs often. I worked wherever I could, from being a receptionist at a spa to working in customer service. Our lifestyle was poor, and there were months when we struggled to pay the bills. Sometimes, we couldn't even afford groceries. But through it all, Anthony stood by me. He took on extra shifts, and together, we made it work. We learned to live frugally, making do with what we had. We found joy in the small things, like family movie nights and picnics in the park. Jack and Emma were growing up fast. They were smart, kind, and resilient, and they brought so much joy to our lives. Despite the challenges, they never complained. They understood that we were doing our best, and they supported us in any way they could. One evening, as we were sitting down to dinner, Jack looked up from his plate. "Mama, why do we have to move so often?" he asked, his voice tinged with curiosity. I took a deep breath, trying to find the right words. "Sometimes life doesn't go the way we plan, Jack. We have to make sacrifices and do what's best for our family. But no matter where we are, as long as we're together, that's what matters." He nodded, seeming to understand. Emma reached over and squeezed my hand. "We love you, Mama. And we're proud of you." Their words brought tears to my eyes. They were such good kids, and I was determined to give them the best life possible, no matter what it took. As the years went by, things slowly started to improve. Anthony got a promotion at work, which eased our financial burden. I found a job that I enjoyed, working as a receptionist at a small, family-owned spa. It wasn't glamorous, but it allowed me to contribute to our family's income while also taking care of my health. Jack and Emma were doing well in school. They were involved in extracurricular activities, making friends, and thriving. Seeing them happy and successful brought me so much joy. It made all the struggles and sacrifices worth it. One day, as I was picking up the kids from school, Emma came running towards me, her face lit up with excitement. "Mama, guess what? I got accepted into the advanced math program," she exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with pride. I hugged her tightly, my heart swelling with pride. "That's amazing, Emma. I'm so proud of you." Jack joined us, grinning from ear to ear. "And I made the soccer team, Mama. Coach said I have real potential." I couldn't stop smiling. "I'm so proud of both of you. You're both doing so well." As we drove home, I couldn't help but feel a sense of hope. We had been through so much, but we were finally starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Life was still challenging, but we were stronger than ever. Despite the improvements, life was still a constant battle. My health remained fragile, and there were days when I could barely get out of bed. The financial struggles were always looming, and there were months when we had to choose between paying the bills and buying groceries. But we kept pushing forward. Anthony and I leaned on each other, finding strength in our love and determination. We made sacrifices, cutting back on anything that wasn't absolutely necessary. We found joy in the small things, like family game nights and homemade meals. One evening, as we were sitting down to dinner, Anthony looked at me with a serious expression. "Elisa, I've been thinking. Maybe it's time for us to move. There's a job opportunity in another city, and it could be a fresh start for us." The idea of moving was daunting, but I knew he was right. A fresh start could be exactly what we needed. "I think you're right, Anthony. Let's do it." Moving to a new city was both exciting and terrifying. It was a chance to start fresh, to leave behind the struggles and make a better life for our family. But it also meant leaving behind the familiar, the comfortable. We found a small house in a quiet neighborhood, close to the kids' new school and Anthony's new job. It wasn't much, but it was ours. As we unpacked boxes and settled into our new home, I felt a sense of hope. This was a new beginning, a chance to build a better future. Jack and Emma adjusted quickly to their new school. They made friends, joined clubs, and excelled in their studies. Seeing them happy and thriving brought me so much joy. It made all the sacrifices worth it. One evening, as we were sitting on the porch, watching the sunset, Anthony took my hand. "We did it, Elisa. We made it through the storm. And now, we have a chance to build something beautiful." I looked at him, tears of happiness in my eyes. "Yes, we did. And I couldn't have done it without you." As the months went by, we settled into a new routine. Anthony's new job provided a stable income, and my health continued to improve. I found a part-time job at a local library, which allowed me to contribute to our income while also taking care of myself. Jack and Emma were thriving in their new school. They were involved in extracurricular activities, making friends, and excelling in their studies. Seeing them happy and successful brought me so much joy. One day, as I was volunteering at the school library, Emma came running in, her face lit up with excitement. "Mama, guess what? I won the science fair." I hugged her tightly, my heart swelling with pride. "That's amazing, Emma. I'm so proud of you." Jack joined us, grinning from ear to ear. "And I scored the winning goal in the soccer game, Mama. Coach said I have real potential." I couldn't stop smiling. "I'm so proud of both of you. You're both doing so well." As we drove home, I couldn't help but feel a sense of hope. We had been through so much, but we were finally starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Life was still challenging, but we were stronger than ever. Life was finally starting to feel stable, but new challenges were always just around the corner. Jack and Emma were growing up fast, and with that came new worries and concerns. They were teenagers now, with their own hopes and dreams, and I wanted to support them in any way I could. One evening, as we were sitting down to dinner, Jack looked at me with a serious expression. "Mama, I've been thinking about college. I want to study engineering, like Dad." My heart swelled with pride. "That's wonderful, Jack. We'll do everything we can to help you achieve your dreams." Emma nodded, her eyes filled with determination. "And I want to become a doctor. I want to help people, like you, Mama." I couldn't stop smiling. "I'm so proud of both of you. You're both going to do amazing things." As the months went by, we focused on helping Jack and Emma prepare for their futures. We researched colleges, applied for scholarships, and saved every penny we could. It was a lot of work, but it was worth it. Sending Jack and Emma off to college was one of the hardest things I've ever done. They had grown up so fast, and it was time for them to spread their wings and chase their dreams. I was proud of them, but I also missed them terribly. Anthony and I adjusted to the empty nest, finding new ways to connect and support each other. We spent more time together, going on walks, cooking meals, and talking about our hopes and dreams. One evening, as we were sitting on the porch, watching the sunset, Anthony took my hand. "We did it, Elisa. We raised two amazing kids. And now, it's our time to focus on us." I looked at him, tears of happiness in my eyes. "Yes, we did. And I couldn't have done it without you." With Jack and Emma off at college, Anthony and I found ourselves with more time to focus on our own interests and passions. It was strange at first, not having the kids around, but we soon found joy in rediscovering ourselves. I started volunteering at the local community center, teaching literacy classes to adults. It was incredibly rewarding, and it gave me a sense of purpose. Anthony took up woodworking, spending hours in the garage, crafting beautiful pieces of furniture. We also made time for each other, going on dates and taking weekend trips. It felt like we were falling in love all over again, and it was wonderful. One evening, as we were sitting by the fire, Anthony looked at me with a smile. "Elisa, I feel like we're finally in a good place. We've been through so much, but we're stronger than ever." I nodded, feeling a sense of peace. "Yes, we are. And I'm grateful for every moment." Adjusting to the empty nest wasn't easy, but it brought new opportunities for growth and connection. Anthony and I found new ways to connect, exploring hobbies and interests that we hadn't had time for before. I continued volunteering at the community center, finding joy in helping others. Anthony's woodworking skills improved, and he even started selling some of his pieces at local craft fairs. We also made time for each other, going on dates and taking weekend trips. It felt like we were falling in love all over again, and it was wonderful. One evening, as we were sitting by the fire, Anthony looked at me with a smile. "Elisa, I feel like we're finally in a good place. We've been through so much, but we're stronger than ever." I nodded, feeling a sense of peace. "Yes, we are. And I'm grateful for every moment." As the years went by, Anthony and I continued to build a life filled with love and joy. Jack and Emma graduated from college and started their own careers, making us incredibly proud. They were strong, independent, and kind, and I knew they would achieve great things. One evening, as we were celebrating their achievements, Jack pulled me aside. "Mama, thank you for everything you've done for us. We couldn't have made it this far without you and Dad." Tears filled my eyes as I hugged him tightly. "I'm so proud of you, Jack. And I love you more than words can say." Emma joined us, her eyes shining with love. "We love you, Mama. And we're so grateful for everything you've done." In that moment, I realized that all the struggles and hardships had been worth it. We had built a life filled with love, and that was the greatest achievement of all. As the years went by, our family continued to grow. Jack and Emma got married and had children of their own, bringing even more joy into our lives. Being a grandparent was one of the greatest joys I had ever experienced. Watching Jack and Emma with their own children, I felt a deep sense of pride. They were wonderful parents, patient, loving, and kind. And seeing the next generation thrive brought me so much happiness. One day, as I was playing with my grandchildren in the backyard, Emma looked at me with a smile. "Mama, thank you for teaching us how to be good parents. We couldn't have done it without you." Tears filled my eyes as I hugged her tightly. "I'm so proud of you, Emma. And I love you more than words can say." In that moment, I realized that all the struggles and hardships had been worth it. We had built a life filled with love, and that was the greatest achievement of all. As I sit in our small kitchen, sipping a cup of tea, I reflect on the journey we've been on. Life hasn't been easy, and we've faced more than our fair share of hardships. But we've also experienced so much love and joy. We've built a family filled with love, and that is something I am incredibly proud of. We've faced challenges together, and we've come out stronger on the other side. As I look towards the future, I feel a sense of hope. There will always be challenges, but I know that we can face them together. We have each other, and that is enough. This is my story, a story of love, resilience, and hope. And as I continue to navigate the twists and turns of life, I am grateful for every moment.